Hi, my name is Sandra Bedrosian-Sermoni, and I am the founder and CEO of AD&P Kids Research Foundation. I am first and foremost mom to 3 amazing kids, one of which has AD&P. I am here today to talk to you about our experience in working to repurpose a drug for my son's rare disease. That drug is called ketamine. Ketamine is actually a sedation drug and has made big news recently as a drug approved for treatment-resistant depression, although it strangely is better known as a club drug called Special K. Marco told me to tell you a little bit about myself, AD&P, and how we got to this point with ketamine. So I will begin here. This is a picture of my family. From the outside, we look pretty normal, attempting a fairly bad selfie. And that's because this adorable kiddo on the right-hand side, who won't look at the camera, has a very rare neurological condition called AD&P. It all began for us in 2008. Here I am on the left, very pregnant with twins, and completely unaware that just 13 years later, I would be fighting to get what is known as a date rape and party drug approved through the FDA for my now 13-year-old son to use on a daily basis. Here are those adorable twins, Tony and Rocco, born as 2 seemingly healthy baby boys. However, as you can see, hours later, things started going very wrong with Tony. It was discovered that he had some pretty serious and rare heart abnormalities, and that is when we first heard the words genetics. At 3 months old, he had his first open heart surgery, and as you can see, he's had many more. Tony spent his entire childhood in and out of the hospital, while he grew further and further behind developmentally, which was extremely painful to watch with his twin brother. He became very medically complex, and his diagnostic list just kept growing bigger and bigger. These are just some of his diagnoses, and as you can see, it affects almost every system of the body, with the biggest and most severe consequences coming from the brain. We spent 6 years doing genetic testing. I always smile at that picture. Genetic and diagnostic testing, and there was no genetic cause could be found. So his doctors labeled him a, quote, undiagnosed genetic syndrome child. And his doctors completely stopped looking for answers. They told us that there was nothing we could do to cure him and that he would probably not live past childhood age. This clearly did not sit well with us. And we wholeheartedly believed that if we didn't know what he had, we wouldn't be able to find a way to help him. And that is when things really shifted for me. And I realized that I had to become more than just a parent. I had to be the person to help my son, because everyone else was giving up, and there was no alternative but me. After a few months of researching options, I was extremely lucky to get Tony accepted into a study at Duke University, where in a matter of months using Wes, he was diagnosed with a mutation in his ADP gene, which is the activity-dependent neuroprotective protein gene. The team explained to me that Tony was the first child diagnosed in the US just months after the discovery of the syndrome. It was so rare that just one small medical publication existed on 10 children in Europe. At the time, the syndrome was so unknown that it had no name, no information, no foundation, no specialists, no centers to take him to, no medical protocol, no treatment, and of course, worst of all, there was no cure. But what there was a target. This gene mutation had now given us something to go after, something to start researching. And researching I did. Like many rare diseases, little existed on this disorder. So with the help of a lot of caffeine, I spent day and night researching every publication and manuscript that I could find on the gene, since only one paper existed on the condition. I also started searching for families and began my own research project, built my own registry. I created the largest collection of diagnosed patients in the world. We are now at about 350. and started working with scientists to help them better understand the syndrome. Through my own research, I actually discovered the first diagnostic biomarker for ADMP, which is really cool because it's unique to ADMP only, and as well as a unique autism phenotype. I have been able to co-author 5 medical publications, which is kind of crazy because I'm not a doctor, I'm just a mom. In addition to my research, I founded ADMP Kids, the International ADMP Parent Support Group, and the ADMP Kids Research Foundation. So what is ADMP syndrome? To summarize, I'm going to geek out a little. It is a neurological orphan disorder caused by a mutation or deletion in the ADMP gene, and in most cases, it's de novo. It is a autosomal dominant neurodevelopmental condition characterized by mild to severe intellectual disabilities, autism, but with a very happy demeanor, speech and motor planning delays, feeding disorders, sleep problems, epilepsy, and a variety of other comorbidities. Most patients have a loss of function mutation causing only half of the protein to be expressed, which is problematic because ADMP expression is essential for brain formation, development, and function. ADMP is also dysregulated in a variety of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and schizophrenia. It's also one of the most common single gene causes of autism and neurodevelopmental and intellectual disabilities. ADMP codes for activity-dependent neuroprotective protein, which is a universally expressed protein involved in chromatin remodeling and synaptic function. Recent research has showed that ADMP plays a major role in autism, and these numbers are new from this year, I believe, accounting for approximately 0.2% of all autism cases. As for a drug target, we believe that ADMP is very important to work on, not just for ADMP syndrome. We believe it could be a first viable target for autism because increasing reduced levels of ADMP expression may reverse autism symptoms. Additionally, ADMP is the only known serum reduced in Alzheimer's, so increasing ADMP expression could be a viable target for that disease as well. So our kids produce half of the ADMP protein needed for proper brain function. So we need to find a way to increase ADMP expression, and this was our target. Enter Matt Might into the equation. I met Matt probably 6 years ago at a Global Gene Summit, and I slightly stalked him about a peptide that we were trying to get from Israel when he was working at the White House. But I was most interested in his work in precision medicine. Over the years, I'd give him a random call, or we'd meet and chat at rare disease conferences or something like an NIH event, because I was always interested in his work and what he could do for ADMP. I think my, quote, gentle stalking and constant let's talk ADMP started to grow on him, and he actually started reaching out to me, which I was thrilled about, because I knew I had him interested in ADMP. And trust me, you want the artificial intelligence rock star interested in your rare disease. Now enter the other Matt. It gets confusing because I've got my 2 Matts. The second Matt, Matt Davis, has a son with ADMP syndrome. And he immediately got in touch with me after his son was diagnosed. He is an MD and very research driven. So he and I started to do some work together to push along a peptide that I was speaking of earlier. And at the same time, Matt might change jobs, and as fate would have it, landed at the University of Alabama, where Matt Davis was working. So both of my very scientific Matts were under the same roof at the same time. Matt was working hard on his McCarran artificial intelligence program, and one day ran ADMP, and voila, as fate would have it, ketamine popped up, and he told Matt Davis about it, being a possible treatment option for ADMP syndrome. That is when I came on board, when Matt Might handed the suggestion over. Matt Davis and I then started to work and did what was probably 4 to 5 months of major research work, both clinical and also drug development and legal research to protect any IP, and doing all of the tedious paperwork and papers and write-ups for filing our IP. We immediately focused on 2 papers, one on neuronal cell death and one was on a specific type of colon cancer. Both used low-dose ketamine to increase ADMP expression. Our children with ADMP are haploinsufficient, so we believed that if we gave low dose dependent levels of ketamine to our children, that it would increase the production of the functioning allele, and this increase in expression would be therapeutic. Sorry, my phone keeps beeping. We also researched ketamine as a combination with another drug that we believe could possibly be more beneficial than even ketamine alone. But to start, we would go with ketamine because it was a repurposed drug. At the same time, I started going to drug development conferences to learn about what we needed to do legally to protect IP and what specifically was needed for that. Matt and I started writing out our hypothesis and developed a very thorough narrative of why we believed dose-dependent ketamine would be therapeutic for not only ADMP syndrome, but other forms of autism and related neurological conditions, including Alzheimer's. Once we had our ducks in a row, I contacted Dr. Joe Bucksbaum, the head of the Seaver Autism Center at Mount Sinai, and I pitched our idea. Joe immediately thought it looked like a very viable treatment option, and he spoke to his team. And Dr. Alex Colvizon at the Seaver Center took the lead and began designing the first phase of our drug trial within months of us bringing them the idea. I am proud to say that in less than 1 year of us bringing our idea to Mount Sinai, we started our FDA drug trial, the first drug trial ever for ADMP syndrome. So fast forward, just a couple months ago, we completed the FDA Phase II safety and efficacy study, and our preliminary reports look very promising and certainly provide robust support to advance to the next phase. Some of the results are that ketamine was well tolerated using parent-reported instruments to assess treatment. Ketamine was also associated with nominally statistically significant improvement in a wide range of domains. We all know that when there's an open trial in reporting, often the parent goggles show much more improvement than there really is. So very importantly, the results derived from clinician-rated assessments aligned with the findings from the parent report. So this is very exciting. Overall, global improvement was also evidence-based on the Clinical Global Impressions Improvement Scale, in addition to numerous other clinical-based scales. Probably the most exciting is that the preliminary data on ADMP expression suggests that we are seeing approximately a 2-fold increase in ADMP. We are waiting for the official EEG, eye tracking, and blood-based biomarker studies, including RNA sequencing, but we are told that the data so far is looking pretty spectacular. So now what? We have completed our phase 2 drug trial, and now we must think about the long road to FDA approval. This road is full of very expensive and time-consuming drug trials. Sorry, something has popped up on my screen. So as you can see, this road is full of drug trials, phase 2, phase B, and because our patient population is so small, it will involve what will probably be every single ADMP child in the age range of 5 to 12, and it will take years. And sadly, our kids don't have years to waste because time is brain. Each day that goes by is a day that their bodies are not producing enough ADMP protein, and to allow their brains to develop and function properly, they need that. Something as simple as repurposed ketamine, I believe, could help them much sooner than needs to be later if we just think outside the box. This leads me to issues that we can overcome. Sorry, my screen is not moving again. to get to the point of getting our children this drug as soon as possible. That's the goal. So are there other options? We know that the FDA approval for repurposed drugs is needed in order to get insurance companies to reimburse for the cost of a drug. So that got me thinking, which is scary sometimes. Cost versus multi-million-dollar phase 3 drug trial. Our drug is generic. Our dosing is very low, which allows for one single bottle to last maybe 2 or 3 months. And one bottle of ketamine, I believe, is about $40. So why do we need insurance to cover a drug that costs approximately $20 a month? If we spend probably $500,000, let's say, we could run a very informative phase 2b treatment study, and it could show positive results and detailed dosing information. And then can't any prescription writing doctor write a prescription off label? This is my thought. And I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. So do we need to run a full FDA phase 3 study for millions of dollars? Maybe not. Can we afford to do that if we did need to? No way, not unless somebody dropped millions of dollars in my lap. And can we get around it so that our children can use this drug sooner than later? Yes, I think we can. This is just my personal opinion, of course. And there may be other options, or options that I think we should talk about. Some might be crazy, some might work. Like, I'm going to talk about biomarkers. If my son's brain doesn't work because he produces only half of the ADMP protein needed, and we give him ketamine and it increases ADMP expression twofold, and RNA sequencing and blood-based biomarkers confirm it, eye tracking biomarkers confirm it, EEGs confirm it, why on earth do we have to do a double-blind placebo phase 3 FDA registration study for millions of dollars with numerous neurodevelopmental and behavioral outcome measures needed when 95% of those types of drug trials fail because of the broad spectrum of symptoms and low patient populations? Why can't the FDA approve a drug using changed biomarkers without having to nail almost impossible neurodevelopmental and behavior outcome measures? These are children who can't communicate, who have profound intellectual delays and level 3 autism. If the biomarkers are saying something is working, why can't we use those? Again, only 5% of these types of trials clear. These are our children, and for them, time is brain. I keep saying that because it's true. This is urgent for us. This is like COVID urgent for us. This is like AIDS urgent for us. This is life-threatening, life-destroying rare diseases that could be helped sooner rather than later. But we need to think outside the box by using things like artificial intelligence, repurposed drugs, and thinking about other opportunities, such as the ones I just discussed. And what about those other forms of autism that ketamine may help? We actually believe that ketamine is going to be the first autism drug because we believe it has beneficial effects in people who don't have an ADMP mutation, but who have other forms of autism and similar deficits. Oh, this thing keeps popping up. If those deficits are caused by a reduction of the ADMP protein, then increasing levels of ketamine may be beneficial for them as well. So can you imagine if the first drug to help autism is a repurposed generic drug that costs about $20 to $40 a month? How incredible would that be? Something has popped up again. There we go. These are the kinds of things that AI will help us find. You know, how many more of these drugs are out there, and how many other rare diseases would beat down the doors to have the opportunity to investigate a drug like we did. And those diseases as well are similar to ADMP. They are small rare diseases. We aren't getting NIH, Simons, and CZI grants. We are doing all the work ourselves, as you can see. We are paying for these drug trials totally ourselves. How are we supposed to raise millions of dollars to research drug trials when we can't even work jobs because we are full-time caregivers to our profoundly disabled children and running kick-ass nonprofit foundations for free? It's crazy. And then why would other autism syndromes wait years for us to run our trial and then run the same trial on their children? Why, this is another thing, why can't we find a way to run a basket trial with different autism disorders, saving years and sharing costs? Because that then may be doable. There are so many variables in this that I believe we can work together and find a way to push innovation like AI, to hunt down and find these gems like ketamine. Even better, there are ways around perhaps these multi-million-dollar FDA Phase III registration studies for repurposed drugs when they are low-cost generic drugs. And no offense to any members here of the FDA watching, I highly respect you, but it's crazy. We're trying to cure our children and we can't afford that. If all we need to do is build a robust, thorough, and well-documented reported trial on low-cost repurposed drug like ketamine, then almost anyone can afford it without insurance. And why would we consider Phase III drug trial for millions of dollars? And for us, we want to help as many people as possible. A repurposed drug like ketamine is a blessing. It is generic and it can help a broad range of patients. And isn't that what we all want, right? There are many rare disease families who are not so lucky. Like I have a friend named Amber Freed who has found a life-changing repurposed drug for her child, and the drug company Horizon that owns it, they're basically holding this thing hostage for astonishing costs to use the drug. I believe it's like $800,000. That's insane. Drugs like ketamine are generic. This is why programs like MITES, McCarran, and other similar programs are so important to find these kinds of drugs. This is why the NIH needs to start funding more computer science for rare disease treatment discovery, and why rare disease organizations need to partner together to find ways to work together, speed up innovation, and share costs. We are hoping that ketamine will serve as an example of how simple it really can be. And also, something like our finding ketamine combined with another drug. This is also going to probably be very lucrative, or could be very lucrative moving forward as well, if we can develop a better drug. So the possibilities are endless. So that's it for me. And if you would like to learn more about ADMP or contact me, you can go to admpfoundation.org. Thank you.